Hey, this is Jay, and we are doing a mid-season Warpforge tier list. That way you can kind of see how things are going, how the patch is played out, and how everything is going to work together. Hopefully, I have some guests with me, and they can enlighten you. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
No, no, I wouldn't.
No, no, I'll pass.
Yeah.
I will.
Nothing.
Hello everyone, I'm Vesk and I'm back on Jay's channel because I am an abusive here, which is my role to come and comment, making it look like I know about the game. When in truth, Jay accompanies the record with better players that humiliate me every time. Hello everyone.
Hello everyone, I'm Jacob Silverblade. You might have seen my channel or me on Jay's channel. Nice to meet you all. Hope this is a good video.
Hey boys, this is the Ecclesiarch, having the honor of joining the boys today on the tier list, and hope to have some fun.
You know, honestly, I tried to get Aquaman for this video too, just to shut out Vesk, because let's be honest, nobody wants him here. But he declined, so.
Wow.
I will
Wow.
keep
I'm
killing.
joking. I'm
I
joking.
will keep killing everyone that tries to attempt to my spot. No, I'm a VIP here, and I will keep my my rights.
Anyway, with that being said, we're doing a tier list today, and we're starting off strong. Ultramarines. Ultramarines. Varro's good, real strong. Titus is good, and I think Uriel's up and coming. So I'm gonna place Ultramarines as a solid A tier, and I think that is probably where I like to be.
So this season I've seen a lot of Ultramarines. I've had very positive matchups against them, but that's mostly because of my the list I was running. I think that overall the tools that they have are still really solid all around. Codex is still a great keyword and they make use of it perfectly. As long as Talion is still as it is right now, before any patch, it's an incredible card with Varro mainly, but also Uriel and Titus are doing a pretty good job in the meta. I will agree with Jay. I think they are an A tier deck faction.
As a specialist, no bragging rights whatsoever. I think if we're gonna take the top, the very, very top, which I think is Vara Tigerius, and you play it well and you utilize all the aspects of it, I do think they actually have the right to go into S tier. I know this could be biased, and I fully accept that. My personal take is actually is one of the best factions in the game, so long as Varro with Talion exists, and with that for that reason, I can't not put them in S tier.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to agree with Jay. I mean, he came on this one because if you guys remember, Varro used to be an S tier warlord for quite a long time. It's just that then a lot of new things appeared, like Space Wolves, for example. But the Ultramarines have been avoiding any changes so far, and that means that Varro should technically still be S tier. As for the other ones, Titus really good. I do also enjoy the occasional Calgar. Beer actually did quite well with him against the Space Wolves. So I'd say I do think they're either high A tier or S.
All right, we can put them in S for now, and if things work out, we'll kind of adjust as we go. So we'll put Ultramarines in S tier. I can see Varro taking S tier easily. All right, next on our bracket, Orcs. How do we feel about that? I think specifically Orcs have been okay. Struggling here and there. They're lacking a couple tools I wish they had. Their clear potential is really good. Flank is really strong, and the rush down, beat down strategy is very strong. Gaz control seems a little bit dead, but can still be powerful in the right circumstances if you get good matchups. I'm going to place Orcs as a whole in B tier.
So last time we did this tier list, we put Orc and due to gas control, if I remember correctly, in B or even in A tier. Now I'm not sure, but it was considered a pretty good choice in the meta. I think that they lost their usefulness as a representative, as counter meta, if anything. They are really not needed anymore, and the tools that they have don't allow them to compare against more structured factions in a way that really makes them worth picking up. For me, is C tier, just because I don't see a reason why you would prefer orcs over anything else above, if not for flavor. C tier.
Yeah, whenever I think of orcs, particularly because of prior experience of what I've done in the past and how they've been really strong in the past, actually, I always think they should be better than they actually are. But then when it comes to performing now these days, they do just lack that fundamental, somewhat edge. I feel like they should be B tier. It's a hard one to say though, because I think Gruck beat down is actually B tier because they've got that 4 energy card which is able to put down a lot of damage with that every single ping for every single unit you have +1. But overall, I'm not gonna say B tier just because of that, but with everything else, I think probably could be argued C tier.
Well, that's a hard one, actually. I would say that they're still doable. Mostly in the sense that they still have some nice tools. It's just that for the most part, they have been gutted with a lot of nerfs because orcs do tend to get out of control if they're not if they're left unchecked, basically. I think the strongest one they have, personally from my experience, is probably Mozrog, played as aggro, also due to his tools and high HP. But a lot of their builds are not that good. I think Beast Aggro Wish into Squiggoth is the one that is currently used. I would say like somewhere from C to B, I would probably still put them in B, but lower end, because they still have some cool tools. They still have a ton of removal, ton of flanks, and ways of dealing a lot of damage. I wouldn't say C, but maybe lower end of B is my take.
All right, I think that's fair. I also agree. Gruck Rushdown is very strong. When it gets moving, it's really hard to stop, especially with all the flankers. We're going to place them in B tier for now, and we'll have to see what falls in front of that. Eldar, we got a bonus for Eldar, so there's a lot of people playing Eldar and ladder. I think Eldar is an A tier deck. I really do. I think it's strong. I think the pilots that get the hands that they need to get, and when your draw dependency is on it, I think that deck's really hard to stop. Especially with their closing out power, Wailing Doom. I think Eldar is pretty strong, so I'm going to place probably lower end of A, but I think Eldar will go into A for me.
Here's a fun fact. I don't play Eldar, and also in the entire season so far, I never faced Eldar after hundreds of games. So honestly, I have no idea because what can I base it on? I can base it on opinions and on good players talking about it, but of course that's biased. I know that their tools are good. Last season they were good. We remember Lycus being at 58% win rate. But aside from that, I have no reference. This game doesn't match me against Eldar, so I have no fucking clue how they are doing. I assume good, and I would go with A just because nothing has changed for the aggro list to be worse. But yeah, my take here is completely irrelevant. I have zero data on Eldar. I'm sorry.
My take is very much similar to Jay's, actually. Well, I think is actually probably more solid at A tier instead of just being a low end of A tier. I think they really do belong there. The main thing they abuse is actually the stealth mechanic, and how really in this game there's only like one card which I consider to be a proper anti-stealth card, and that belongs to the Dark Angels, and it's the 5 energy Raven Wing Speeder. Everything else in the game you do not really need to be worried about in terms of anti-stealth. So when you have a whole bunch of stealth troops, which can all do a lot of damage to face, and there isn't really much way to get around it, they're just gonna kill you within a certain amount of time, sort of thing. And with that being a factor, that just makes them like just a very, very strong faction. So A tier.
Well, the Eldar haven't really been touched much ever since they've been released. They've only been receiving some very minor changes, though they did receive more reinforcements in the last period. But overall, yeah, I have to agree with Silverblade here. I think they're more of a solid A tier, mostly because all of their warlord, only one I'm not sure about is Jinjar. Otherwise, all of them I consider as A tier picks. Skeltalk, Med Galen, like whoever it is. Probably maybe Lihis or Iliak are also like very, very strong. They just play, aggro, ton of stealth, ton of damage, and a very terrifying finisher. Like, you're never safe against that faction. They can just melt your HP. I would say, yeah, when piloted correctly, that is definitely an A tier faction for me. That's my take.
Is it a high skill deck? Do you think? Do you think it takes
Yes.
a lot of player skill to play Eldar?
I think there is a level of player skill that you do need to have with when playing Eldar. You need to be able to factor in your opponent's lethal range, your lethal range, and whatever threats they can play next, particularly armored troops, because Eldar do struggle with armor. But when you factor that in, you can really beat down your opponent and just close out so many more games than you should have any right to.
All right, Eldar into A. Pretty solid. Next on our list, a faction that took a hit during this last patch, Immortal Pride to 7, Hexmark Destroyer into 4, or damage Hexmark into 4, so 4 HP, and now attacks the lowest HP troop at random. I think this nerf was rather significant. We had them at A tier last time. I'm gonna go B. They still have tools. I'm struggling to find where I think the tools fit, and it's really hard to make work right now. It just seems like the meta is just a little fast for what Eldar wants, or for what Necrons want to do. So maybe lower end of B. I might even be pressured to say C, but I'm gonna go lower end of B.
I think that the nerfs definitely slow them down, ironically, because they are the master of the end games, but they slow them down in a way that really puts them in a hard spot to come back against more active decks. Spending 7 energy nowadays for the stratagem is not worth it as much as it was at 6. And overall, the Scarab build with Orican is still a fun deck. Ramatech, you can still build something with it. Imotech is probably still the best, but his best tool are not the same as they used to be. They are still threatening, absolutely, but not dangerous as they were before. In my opinion, they are B tier deck, probably under Orcs.
I don't have much experience playing with Necrons. I've played them a little bit, but not particularly much. What I am going to say though is that increase to 7 energy cost card and then also those 5 energy cost cards is a substantial nerf to the most played playstyle, which is Imitech. I think that his main thing is that with the cost reduction in his hero power and being able to use his hero power multiple times means that you can get multiple artifice triggers, and it's a lot harder to do that. And then that other unit being nerfed as an artifice unit kind of suggests to me that you got to be doing something else, and I don't think that something else was nearly as good as what that Imitech was doing. So I'm gonna have to say B, and maybe even as Jay said C, but I'm gonna go with B just to be on the safe side because I don't think they're that bad. But yeah.
Well, I play a lot of Necrons. Imotech has been like one of my favorites ever since I started this game. And what I can say about it is that, yeah, while the nerfs were pretty bad, it's not as bad as it might seem. Let me explain why, real quick. So, yes, you are losing two very big things, one being like very strong Hexmark, and the other being the Immortal Pride. But you also have to remember that Imotech only recently received his ability buff, which synergized really well with the Immortal Pride. And even before that, he used to be very good. I think Lichguard is just going to replace Hexmark again. You're just going to be playing the typical Tomb World win button Imhotep. It's not going to be as good as it used to be, obviously, because, you lost a lot of pressure. I would still say B, and I would even say on the stronger side of B from my experience. But yeah, B nonetheless. I don't think higher.
Above or below orcs, do you think?
I personally would say above, but it does have a skill cap. Harder to play than orcs for sure.
Yes, I agree. Definitely harder to play than orcs. Black Legion. This is the hardest hitting for me. As a Sisters main, losing stun against Black Legion has been my nightmare. Black Legion's good. I think they have tools that can be very useful when they get draws like double spawned or things like that, or possessed marine. It's pretty hard to keep a board against them. I think they're solid B, but right in the middle. I think that's where I'm going to put them, is right in the middle of B, probably behind orcs.
So, Black Legion has been a little bit of my nightmare this season because of how many times I had to face them. I feel like Sailor Agro and Abaddon are doing honestly pretty well, much better than people give credit to them for. The faction itself has some glaring weakness that, once exploited, make you feel like they are not doing anything. But overall, on average, I think you're gonna win many more games than you're gonna lose in a very satisfying way. I think that Black Legion is a little bit underestimated at the moment, and I would put them at the top of B tier.
Hmm.
I'll be honest, I do play Black Legion, particularly Harken Worldclaimer. I very much enjoy playing Harken Worldclaimer. However, I have not played Black Legion this season. So the only thing I've got a basis on is playing it the prior season. What I will say on that is that prior season, Spawnedom was a very, very good card, along with Trader's Hate against Space Wolves. Along with Harken's Worldclaimer's ability, you could really actually put down like a lot of threats and stuff to deal with things somewhat, and sometimes you could just put down bodies which they actually, believe it or not, they can actually deal with / remove. So I would put them in B tier. However, I'm putting them ahead of Necrons and Orcs.
Really? Okay.
No, I'm gonna be like the outsider here. I'm a big fan of Black Legion. I think Abaddon is my most played warlord out of all. I would say they're low A even. I'll tell you why I think so. Probably will maybe balance it and put them in B at the end of the day. But personally, like if I put some personal experience or bias into it, I would even say A because Black Legion, if piloted well, is an absolute nightmare, especially with Abaddon. The constant stream of HP, very powerful defense cards. I mean, the counterattack cards, or whatever we call them here, defense cards, right? Yeah. They're everything that they had is still really powerful. They still have the Crusade. They still have troops that if you don't instantly remove, they just win the game. They still have that insanely powerful dueling tool as well. Very high lethal range. I think overall it's a good faction. The only thing I think that keeps Black Legion from being too crazy, honestly, is that it is not it as much as it is a beginner friendly faction. At the same time, it is not a beginner friendly faction because um, it is on paper very easy to pilot, but once you like start playing in higher ranks, you got to be very careful with what you play, what you keep, what you waste. But once you get a hang of it, they become really powerful. It's just that I think currently a lot of players who used to play Black Legion actively have kind of left the game, so that might have also damaged their reputation, kind of. But yeah, maybe we can agree on high B, like Silverblade said.
All right. Sure. I agree with that. That makes all sense to me. We'll place them above Necrons, high B. If we need to readjust this at the end, we can go back and kind of fiddle with things. So next on our list, we have Tyranids. One warlord stands out specifically to me, and that is Swarmlord. And I think Swarmlord is absolutely terrifying in almost every matchup I play. I'm gonna say A tier, and it's only because I think Swarmlord has a backpack and carries the other Tyranids along with him. So
Well, it's very hard when you're doing a faction tier list to evaluate a faction who has specifically one warlord and one type of list that works and nothing else in the faction does. Swarmlord, I think that we will all agree, is the only thing that you can run if you want to run Tyranids in a successful way. But if I'm trying to evaluate the faction, I cannot say that everything is good in Tyranids because everything is bad. So I have to put it in the middle of somewhere. I would probably say over above Black Legion in B tier. I don't think they are quite A tier, and I don't feel like they deserve to be in A tier, honestly. But Swarmlord works, so I cannot even put them lower than that. If it was for everything but Swarmlord, D tier. Only Swarmlord, A tier. Let's find a middle ground. Let's say high B tier because that deck works well.
I remember playing on a stream somewhat recently, just before I think the Space Wars were released, where I was trying to get my 10 wins with Tyranids, and people wanted to make me play Turvagon, and this was before the mental load meme came out. And I will be honest, there is a mental load when playing Turvagon if you want to play it well. But I actually do think Turvagon does go up there if you know how to play it, if you've got the right deck, sort of thing.
is it the
But it
combo
does come.
variant by chance?
It is the combo variant.
Yeah.
It does require severe mental load. So I will warn people, this one will actually hurt your brain. You know, you gotta do it right. But if you do get it right, it is strong. So I am gonna put it, after all saying that though, I will put it in B tier. I think it's strong. I think Swarmlord's strong because of all the stealth and how there isn't really much of an anti-stealth counter in this game. But I don't think they're breaking anything.
I could definitely agree with that. They're certainly not breaking anything right now, but Swarmlord, think has not been a single season in this game ever since I remember it coming out where Swarmlord was not overtuned in a way. Not overtuned, I don't know, either overtuned or like extremely powerful. It's just really good. It's good right now. I just made 10 wins with it today without like much effort. I think Neurotrope is also fine. I wouldn't say it's strong, but it's definitely fine. I think the one that's struggling the most is Terror. That's for sure. And one thing that I would say, and I definitely agree with Silverblade, I think he said everything there. Tervagon is an extremely strong warlord. It is just that it is probably the hardest warlord to play in the game, let alone master. But if you do manage to master it, it is a very, very good warlord. It's very powerful, undoubtedly like underrated in its own right. So, yeah, I would say like it could be a strong B tier faction or low A tier faction for sure, but not easy to pilot. Even Swarmlord is not easy to pilot. I'll definitely say that. It's a hard faction overall.
So B tier, where are we thinking? Are we thinking below Black or above Necrons, or next to Orcs, perhaps?
Hmm.
Above Necrons for sure.
Everyone
Maybe
agree on?
maybe
Everyone
the
agree on that?
maybe the top of that. Definitely above Necrons.
Okay.
I would say at the top of B tier. I think they are better than the Swarmlord is better than Black Legion, in my opinion.
I think so too.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
Let's go with that. Sure. See if I can move this now. Can I move this, please? Is it going to let me? Maybe I can. Oh, it's not letting me move it, but I'll fix it at the end. Okay. So Tyranids above. Wait, can I
Black
drag
Legion.
these down? Click here to add. Click here to reorder images. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. So we're just gonna. I'll fix it at the end. Okay. So next in our bracket, Tau. How do we all feel about the new patches to Tau? I'm gonna say Meiosis Commander is A tier, Anva or Commander Meiosis is S tier, Anva S tier as well. Kroot maybe less so, maybe A tier, but I think Tau buffs are nuts. And I think it's good. I think they were at the bottom of the win rates last time, and now they're at the top. So I think it's good. So I think Tau is S tier in my opinion.
What a surprise if you take one faction and you buff all the core cards they have, the faction becomes good. Yes, they are strong. That's what happens when you patch just by showering them with buffs of any kind. I don't think they are as strong as people think. I think they are certainly very, very, very good. But I think that maybe because most people are playing Tau and not so well, and a bit of the hype post patch, they looked better than they are. I would say that they are in a high A tier, but not quite to S tier because, truth be told, I think that they have pretty strong counters in the meta, and they cannot deal with them. So in a vacuum, they would be an S tier faction. But with the counters that they have hanging around left and right, especially considering their representation in the meta, yeah, they don't make the cut overall. So A tier for me.
For me, I was just playing a bit of a Mesos just before on the stream, trying to test out some decks. So I'm sure I don't have the most optimal deck, but to be honest with you, I think they're B tier. I think they're a little bit luck dependent on what they get. If you're able to get those cost reductions early, if you're able to get the shields on the drones early, it can become oppressive. If you don't get it early and you get it much more late game, you're just playing generic old Tal. And you're just playing generic old Tal, that was like C tier in the past. So I'm gonna have to put us somewhere roughly B tier.
Well, I'll be honest, I haven't had any experience with playing them or playing against them at that, as surprising as it might be. But nevertheless, I do feel like they are, you know, quite a bit better than they used to be, obviously, after those nerfs. But not nerfs, sorry, buffs. I think they would, on paper, I imagine they would be lower end of A tier or somewhere in the middle because Omezos is certainly going to be a little bit oppressive, kind of based on what you play against. I kind of guess am guessing, but I can also see like Onva still working quite well. Maybe Warshaper also being all right, but I don't see them quite as powerful consistently as, let's say, Varo or the Eldar. So I would maybe go somewhere low A or B. That's my take.
I think low A is probably fine. On the days that you high roll
Mhm.
the DS8 drone off your protocol, it's nuts, by the way. High rolling DS8 drone,
Yeah.
that should not be allowed. I feel like that's so busted.
Okay,
We'll put
I agree. I think it should be one of the generic free drones that you could make with a Mesos.
Yeah, we'll put them in low A for now behind Eldar, but man, rolling a DS8 drone, it makes the game so much harder. Next on our list, we all cry in a martyrdom. Raise your prayers. Sisters of Battle. How do we feel about this? Personally, my girl, as much as it hates to say this, from A to C tier. I think Sisters is a C tier deck now. They are just not where they used to be. They're lacking the tools. Sacred Rose got nerfed. Erica got nerfed. Even their defense card got nerfed, and I think it all hurts really bad. So I'm gonna put Sisters in C tier.
I will try to be short. I look at the faction on my screen in front of me, and I cannot think of a single faction that is any stronger, any weaker than Sister in this moment. When everyone was complaining about Sacred Rose, I always said that's the only card that Sister have that make their decks playable. Without Sacred Rose, you cannot play Sisters. And as it turns out, without Sacred Rose, you cannot play Sisters. They are so weak in this meta. To do the same things that you wanted to do before, you need to go through so many hassles. It's incredibly, incredibly hard to get going as you used to because you just don't have the tools. And other deck are not waiting for you. That your opponent is playing their game, and you're still struggling just putting together yours. What they've done to Sister, honestly, it has been way too much. We also lost Martyr, which was a good meta counter, the legendary Martyr, of course, for me, and also with some spite. I will put Sister in D tier because honestly, everything else is better.
Sisters are one of those factions, and I've played against them and with them somewhat all throughout the seasons. They're one of those factions when they get going, they can be oppressive, but they can struggle to get going. And it's always been the case that they basically use Sacred Rose to sort of propel themselves into a place of get going, if you see what I'm saying. And with that being quite heavily nerfed, I'm not saying it wasn't justified, maybe not the level of nerfs they've received, but with that being nerfed, they don't get that sort of get out of jail, get going sort of card that they kind of desperately needed. And so hence, I don't think they're as bad as C tier, but I have not played them this season. But I can definitely see C tier, so I'm gonna put down C tier.
All right.
Well, I haven't tried them yet, but on paper, yeah, they have been hit quite hard. And I think one of the main issues is not only the nerfs to those two big cards, which were Sacred Rose and Adelaide, which were both, well, kind of obnoxious, obviously, but they might have went too far, all in all, with them. But there's also the Erika nerf, which was a nerf to her, bringing her to a state which is weaker than her release state, which is honestly pretty insane because her release state was nothing to be really proud of. She was quite weak
This
back
were
during that
bad on
time.
release.
Yeah, it was really bad, and they kind of ended up still um, not doing anything about her basic ability while they removed the stun, even nerfing it further, which is crazy. But on top of that, the Hallowed Martyr nerf is also one that goes under the radar because as soon as I saw like the changes, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna play Morven Val, and probably that's the thing that I'm gonna be playing, Morven Val. Most probably that is the warlord you have to go for now. But like, nevertheless, I do not think they're in a good spot right now. I would say maybe C tier, not D, but C for sure.
All right. I think C is pretty fair. I know this is going to hurt everyone to hear. I played a Junith list because somebody asked me to in my comment section, and it is not going hot. So just figured I'd throw that out there. I've tried Ave, I tried Erica, and I've tried Morven. Morven is definitely the best performing so far for me. Next on our bracket, AM, Imperial Guard. I've had a lot of success with this list. In the past, we've said they were B tier. I'm going to go kind of high B, maybe low A. Their rushdown potential is absolutely absurd. The games where you Minka into Griff, I feel, are almost unwinnable for your opponent. The games where you don't, even the double servo sentries are extremely strong. This is one of the very few factions I prefer to go second in. And I like AM, so I'm going to say high B, low A.
Now that we are past halfway mark in the tier list, when I put something into it, I try to contextualize compared to the other faction. My experience with AM is that they always have good tools all around. They haven't received any major changes in recent times, but they also never struggle that much. I think from a general perspective, they are always a good pick. You can never go wrong. I haven't seen them struggling that much this season, last season. Maybe they are not the best performing faction ever, but if you want to pick something and be serene with your pick that it will go well and it will work, you can absolutely pick AM without any issue. So, in my opinion, they are in the exact middle of every faction, in B tier, above Orcs, and below Black Legion.
My take is that they are A tier. They are a strong faction, particularly the more aggro variants, I would say. just the amount of pings you can put out as just from the sniper, the Kassakin, you also got, what is it? There's another free drop as well. There's just a lot of damage you can do, and as Jay has said, you can get Minka into Vitus Griff. That is a powerful thing. There's also other builds you can do as well, which is not as bad, and sorry, not quite as good, but they aren't bad either. And I think they belong in B tier, but I think the aggro variants do belong in that A tier version. So I say A tier from Imperial Guard.
Yeah, I definitely go with A as well. I think that it's a particularly strong and good faction. Does require a little bit of learning, though, obviously. It's one of those factions that you really need to get a hang of. Even though it is beginner friendly, still, it is somewhat a type of faction that you gotta, learn a little bit. Now, apart from that, however, there's also the other thing. Even Dankler, I would say, is pretty all right now. I've been playing him to get to my 10 wins, and it's actually been pretty easy, to be fair. So I would say it is quite good. Yeah, overall, I think all the warlords are nice. Maybe Leontus is the one that requires the most support to be, you know, constantly useful. But otherwise, yeah, I would say it's a solid A tier faction. Not above the Eldar, that's for sure, but still A tier.
All right, we'll move them to A then. I think they're good. I've had pretty good success with them. I know Silverblade's at the top of UM leaderboards, and I'm sitting at the top of AM leaderboards. So I mean, obviously we both found success with our favorite factions. They must be good in some form or fashion. So next on our
I
list,
don't think I'm top of UM anymore, actually. I think someone else has overtaken me
you were
at
yesterday.
this moment in time.
You were yesterday. That's all that matters.
Okay, that's all that matters. Just very quickly, where we're gonna put Ashen Bataram in A tier? I think they're above Tal or below Eldar.
Above Tau,
Yeah,
but below
same.
Eldar. Okay, fine. That's fine with me. Okay. Above Tau, below Eldar. Gotcha. Oh man, Dark Angels. Would anybody like to play Asmodee slot machines? I think Azrael is the go-to warlord for this faction. Asmodee is good, and with Asmodee, you have a window to close out the game. If you don't close out the game in that window, he's going to overdraw you with secrets, and you're probably going to lose. But I think Asmodee, or not Asmodee, Azrael is a lot more consistent in providing board pressure, and even some of the Belial builds can be absolutely terrifying if they have a board and you can't take control of it. So I'm gonna put Dark Angels in C tier.
Okay, I will make my call here. I think everyone is sleeping on Dark Angels, and I will prove it to the whole community very soon. I think they are actually capable of working much better than they get credit for. Yes, Asmodee Slot Machine, I will play it. Azrael, I think, is the go-to warlord because of the skill involved, because of the agenda effect. And Belial is solid, although doesn't really mix well with the faction itself, with his talent. But overall, I think that they don't have any glaring weakness at the moment in this specific meta, and then we see. And I think that their tools are pretty reliable. It's hard to pilot them well because most of what's going on is uh, fixing future issues. You know, with Asmodee, you are putting secrets and then thinking about them later. With Israel, you need to know what you want on top of your deck every single turn, uh, and Belial on the side. But overall, like, tell me, where are they super weak? Why are they not working? I think they are just not played well. The strong players that I faced in ladder that they are playing Dark Angels completely rolled me. And yeah, I think they are slept on. In my opinion, they are a solid B tier. Probably they can easily compete with Orcs or Necrons, not with Black Legion or Swarmlord. So I would say probably low B tier, but definitely better than the general opinion.
I think they're C tier. I think I'd say Azrael and Asmodai are roughly the same in terms of their power level. Of course, Asmodai being completely random and deciding on the day whether he wants to be broken or just perfectly weak. I think they struggle in somewhat more of the mid game. I think their flankers, they do struggle to with the 5-drop flanker slash the 4-drop flanker. The 4-drop flanker has to require you to not have a board at a time. The 5-drop flanker only has 5 HP, has 5 range attack, but only 3 melee, so sometimes it be difficult to trade into things with high range attack, and that can be quite a bad weakness there. I also think, you got the land speeder as well, but then what tempo play do they have for 5-drop? And I can't really say a tempo play for 5-drop for Dark Angels at all, to be honest. If you're gonna play teleport, you've got the 5 energy teleport guy, but he's only got 4 melee attack. He's got 2 armor, which is nice, but he's only got 4 melee attack. He doesn't really trade anything. He just sort of sits there and exists, and then he just dies eventually. Like they've got that middle of their game they really struggle with. I don't know what 6-drops they really have either, apart from that 6 energy teleport as well, and then their legendary. So I think once you go into that sort of segment, they've got good late game because they've got the secrets and they've got the 9-drop legendary, not legendary, epic teleport unit, and I think they've got some good early game, but in the middle of the game, I think they really struggle actually, and that's when you can really put the pounding on them. So C tier.
I am somewhere in between. I do agree, however, that Azrael and Asmodai are roughly the same. Uh, Azrael obviously used to be better than Asmodai. I think the issue that just happened there is obvious. What happened is that, well, um, Asmodai basically, not Asmodai, but most of the cards that Azrael used to play received nerfs, and so he kind of got very hit with that like very hard. Now apart from that, yes, what Silverblade is saying is kind of true. They mainly struggle in the mid game because a lot of their mid game tools have received like very heavy hits. Their Death Knight, the Lich Guard alternative, I don't know why that was even nerfed. It was a weird one. All of their other Terminators were nerfed. Their removal tool was nerfed. So a lot of things were nerfed, basically. So I think they are currently struggling. I do agree, however, that the player skill level and the way of like building the deck is very important because I sometimes want to just go insane when I'm playing against an Asmodai. He draws everything, and then I see him playing Terminators. I just wanna go crazy because that's not a good way to play Asmodai, all right? To play it as Terminators. That's like adding even more RNG on top of your RNG, but well, sometimes it works. It's a casino build, right?
Yeah.
So I'd say their lower end of B or higher end of C is where I personally put them.
I think it's probably one of the higher skill cap decks as far as skill building goes. With deck building, I think Dark Angels is extremely difficult. I think it's probably one of the hardest decks to construct, in my opinion, at least. I'm going to
Absolutely.
place them at the top of C tier above Sisters, and if we feel they need to go to the bottom of B, we can do that at the end. Emperor's Children. Surprising results. If you check leaderboards for top players, Emperor's Children's doing actually pretty well. Caffriel and Lucius are doing beat face strategies, and they work pretty well, apparently. There's a couple Chinese players that are dominating with them. I think they're better than we ranked them last time, strictly because Space Wolves is out of the meta, and that changes a lot. I'm going to place them in C tier above Sisters. Maybe even above Dark Angels. It just depends really on the build and the draw. So somewhere in between C tier, just above Sisters for sure.
I think they are a fan favorite faction, and that influences the rating a lot because you will end up seeing AC a lot, especially with the recent event that has been running. But yeah, they don't really do that much. Like many people are carrying them with aggro strategy of various shapes and forms, of course, with Lucius or Carfarel. I've seen some Saharan around, but nothing to write home about. Yeah, I think they are overrated, to be honest. They just have one game plan, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it completely falls apart. I never really struggled. Good players, of course, can pilot them, but overall, in the complexity of a meta, I think they are just overplayed and overrated. For me, of course, they are better than Sister, probably better than Dark Angels, but still a C tier deck.
I think I have to agree. They're somewhere in C tier. They've got really only one playstyle because they don't have the fundamental tools to play particularly any other playstyle. You can go a bit more of a mid range, but you can't really go too much beyond that point because otherwise you will just start dying to the aggro decks. I think you can use any of the warlords, to be frankly honest. Probably Lucia's a little bit better than the other two, but it's hard to say. I think they could actually be worse than Sisters. As I say, I haven't tried Sisters. I have played plenty of actually Emperor's Children in the past, so they're not in a great spot. They're somewhere in C tier.
Yeah. I maybe I would give them like show them a bit more mercy and say that they are a lower B. But overall, I agree that it's more about the fact that they're a fan favorite faction for sure. I think that's pretty clear that they are. A lot of people love Emperor's Children. A lot of people play them, and I can see that. You know, I can see that whole fan favorite thing going on. But at the same time, I do not think that they're very good, mostly due to their problem with consistency. On top of that, they also have another problem in general, which I would say is that they have no defensive capabilities almost at all. They are strictly dependent on out damaging you. That's their whole thing. They have to do more damage to you than you do to them. That's their whole thing. I think their main problem is that they're not consistent enough to really manage to mm, get into a high tier. Especially after the Lucius nerfs. I'd say low B, maybe. The lowest of the B. Maybe not C, but lowest of the B for me. So, whichever you guys choose.
We can put them at the top of C for now, and we'll go back and we'll decide if we want to move them. Next on our bracket, we have Space Wolves. Oh God, where this was an S tier deck before. How do we feel about it now? I personally think Null is still really good, probably an A tier warlord by himself. But the other two warlords, Logan and Blackmane, I think it fell off significantly. I'm willing to place them in B tier and think that they're just a B tier deck.
To evaluate Space Wolves, it's hard to do without comparing them to what they used to be. We know that they were completely broken, and they received very heavy nerfs. Sometimes, in my opinion, for some of them, even excessive nerfs. Like for example, the wolves that are generated by Logan. um, Despite that, when you start a game and your opponent is a Space Wolf deck, you still fear to be outrun completely somehow, especially if is Njal, which is definitely the best warlord that they have. Overall, I think they have been nerfed harder, but they have been nerfed well. They still have raid tactics. They still have saga, which are both very oppressive cards. It's just a little bit harder to go with the game plan that they used to be, but yeah, like they can close the game. Hunter Mark is still a insanely good tool that they have. They are good. They are good. In my opinion, they are at the bottom of A tier.
I'm gonna have to release some Space Wolves videos after this. I think they're S tier. I still think they have not been dealt with. I think the top of Space Wolves are still absolutely up there. I think quite comfortably. Nigel Stormcaller is, of course, the one we're mostly talking about here with his aggro potential. They did not touch his cost reduction ability, and that hero power is kind of crazy. Imagine if every single warlord in the game had a free hero power. Just
Yeah.
think about it in a second and how different this game would be. Um, that's roughly what Nigel Stormcaller has got. I still think they need another set of nerfs. I think the top things they can do. I think Logan is better than people think he is. You just need to go for more kind of the same you would go for Nigel Stormcaller, just more of an aggro archetype. Just you get that big wolf at the end. It's not as good now because it doesn't have the stealth. So I think whereas beforehand, I actually think Nigel Stormcaller and Logan Grimnar both going for an aggro strategy was actually equally as good as each other in the past. I think Nigel Stormcaller is still just as good, whereas Logan has just got slightly weaker. And so hence you're better off playing Nigel. I think they are S tier, and I think they're above Ultramarines.
Wow.
I have to completely agree with Silverblade here, except for one thing. I'm not sure if we want to nerf them anytime soon because there is a danger of killing the faction because a lot of their tools have been hurt. I do still agree though that if piloted correctly and if you play Nyal more specifically, you are gonna do that as an S tier deck. It is just that currently you're not gonna be seeing a lot of them on the ladder because I'm not throwing any shade, but in general, you know how it works, right? When something is overpowered, everybody wants to play it. When it requires like a couple of more brain cells, people stop playing it, right? So
Mental
that's pretty
load.
much how it always happens. Yeah, too much mental load, basically. So, yeah, I guess that is like one of the main reasons perhaps we don't see much of them anymore. But other than that, they are very, very powerful still. I myself did my 10 with Ragnar this season. Ragnar is obviously the weakest runt of the litter, let's put it like that. I've also been playing more of a fun version of the Ragnar deck, and it's still pretty strong. So, yeah, I'm planning to play some Nyal afterwards, and I'm not sure about if it's higher or not than Ultramarines, but it is an S tier deck still, for
All
sure.
I
right.
I've I just wanted to say a little bit more. I just think there's probably a certain aspect also of burnout along with that, just getting nerfed and not wanting to play it. If everybody's played, Space Wolves at the highest level last season, they kind of want to play something different
Yes.
this season, and maybe just the excuse is enough to able to not play them. But I think people would gonna start once they've caught on that really Space Wolves are actually still kind of better than everything else. They're gonna start gravitating back to Nigel, and then there's gonna be like late in weeks, 2 weeks time now from now, we're gonna see just Nigel Stormcaller just ruining the battlefield again. That's what I reckon.
I placed them behind Ultramarines in S tier, and I would have to say that I can see your guys' perspectives, and I would agree with that. So for me, I put them in the back of Ultramarines behind them in S tier. Last bracket on the day, Gene Stealer Colts, and this will be really easy for me. I think Safa is S tier and has been S tier for many, many, many patches. So Uprising combo is nuts, especially with sabotage support. It's very strong. You're basically playing solitaire. And Magic, we call it goldfishing because in goldfishing, there's one goldfish in a bowl that basically plays with itself. So basically, that's solitaire, and that's what it is. You just play your own game and ignore what your opponent's doing, and then you win out of nowhere. So I think Saf is an S tier deck. Sabotage itself, kind of on the lower end, maybe B tier, but Safa definitely S tier deck in my opinion for GSC.
It's incredible to me how GSC have been avoiding nerfs left and right in these past few patches. Uprising, honestly, is one of the sharpest lines that you can take to win games, and it's also kind of easy. Um, Even the skill cap isn't that high for a deck like that, just because the tools that you have to make the deck work, they work so well. I've been playing on basically only GSC this season with incredible success. and by running a build that is not optimal because I wanted to have fun. But if I were to play the most optimal list, I honestly wouldn't fear anything on the board except hard counters by design. I don't know how is it possible that people are not playing them. Even when I was very surprised when I saw the event. But honestly, yeah, S tier, and in my opinion, the best that there is at the moment, above everything else. Maybe on par with Ultramarines. I can see Ultramarines being better, but it's a 50-50 between them.
Yeah, I remember doing videos in the past saying that, oh my golly, this GSC warlord, it's not alright, blah blah, and I feel so vindicated right now. I think I don't think it's quite S tier. I don't think you have that absolute 100% right we're gonna combo off on 6 energy and kill our opponent, because you do have to draw into the 3 drop to make more of those 1 drops, and you do also need the 6 drop. And it is possible to, even if they do combo, depending on how well they combo, it is possible to put down some sort of board clear, deal with all the little guys, and then maybe put a flank troop, low cost flank troop down, and then build the big guy, and then they've kind of lost their combo, and when they lose their combo, they do lose it. So I am gonna have to say A tier, but I think top of A tier, because I do agree that combo is extremely powerful, and I do think Sapphire could have a look-see at, let's say.
Oh boy, this is a tough one to talk about because there's like multiple things that you have to consider. I think one of the main issues with Gene Stealers, and by issues I mean that the issues I mean that like they tend to go under the radar a lot because again it's a high skill cap deck. You can't play them unless you know how to play them. But they have some very strong cards. There's like still the Icon Bearer of the Neophytes. There's still the Nexus and the Sabotage in itself. I'm not talking about the Sabotage decks, but Sabotage in itself is a bullshit mechanic to start from because it just shuts down your tempo completely. The opponent is basically just telling you, hey, you don't get to play, okay? So that's pretty much what it is. You don't get to play because your opponent, you're spending your turns just getting rid of sabotages from your hand. Mostly what they do is they fill your hand with sabotage. You miss the first few turns because of that, and then they just do the icon word neophyte icon bearer combo, and kind of you lose. But again, it's difficult to play. It's not that easy to play, but I think the fact that they're like on top of the faction leaderboards as well also is a good like testament to what we are saying here. I wouldn't say, however, that they are as powerful as they might seem. Maybe like high A tier or low S tier would be the place to put them. They're a very dangerous faction. As for the nerfs, I mean, if they would nerf Safa right now, Gene Stealers would never be played again because everything else is trash. So there's that.
I think for Gene Stealers, we'll put them at the top of A above Eldar. And if things don't change in the next few patches, I guess we'll see. So they're at the top of A below Eldar. So in S class, we have Ultramarines and Space Wolves. A class, we have Gene Stealers, Eldar, Imperial Guard, and Tau. B tier, we have Tyranids, Black Legion, Necrons, Dark Angels, and Orcs. And in C tier, we have Emperor's Children and Sisters. Does that seem about right to everybody?
I think that's quite
Wait,
okay.
Is there anything we'd like to
Jay,
change around?
I think
This
we
is
have different lists.
All right, so we've done a little bit of debating and we've came to a conclusion, and this is what we resulted on. So you have your A, B, C, and D tiers, and of course the S tiers up at the top on what you'd be thinking. This is basically what we have kind of conglomerated and came together with as a group. And for final touches, would you guys like to give any shout outs to anybody listening?
Well, I would like to shout out you, Jay, because it's thanks to you that we are doing this, and I think it's an extremely valuable contribute to the community since when you started to to be part of it. You are doing a great job bringing people together and making valuable and good content for it. So my shout out personally this time goes straight to you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, definitely a shout out to Jay as well as all the other newer content creators. I think that that's a very important thing for the community currently because we've been losing content creators like I don't know, like crazy, both in HHL and in Warpforge. So to everybody else, I'd like to encourage you guys to follow all of our newer boys here because I think it's very important for us to develop as a community. So yeah.
And please, everyone, go and follow the Ecclesiarch. If you would like to follow me as well, absolutely subscribe. Subscribe to Jay's channel. He does some great stuff, and I like his memes also.
Yeah, my memes are my best content. Everything else is pretty mid tier, but definitely sub to all of us. That's at the Ecclesiarch on YouTube, at Jachum Silverblade on YouTube, and of course at jayashborne. The links will be in the descriptions if you need anything. We're all here to support you guys, and if you have any questions, contact us on Discord. We'll be more than happy to help you guys. So, thanks everybody for tuning in. I do appreciate it. It's been nice. See you guys.
See you all.